The actual long-form IPCC climate reports are so boring and so drab that virtually nobody reads them. Some policymakers, some people, they read the short version or even just the summary of the short version. Now, most people simply read news articles based on the short version summary. And then, of course, you get these future scenarios, these apocalyptic imageries of crazy rising oceans, and we're all gonna, burn, and all kinds of disasters. But there still is a void that was to be filled in terms of PR, and that void was filled by the entertainment industry. And this is called climate fiction. This is a genre that is much bigger than people actually realize. And so there you have world-famous novels, television shows, and movies that influence people in terms of the ecosystem and climate change. And this stuff is watched and read way more often than the actual IPCC climate reports. So forget about people actually understanding how the IPCC works and what the sources are. Forget that people don't understand that climate science is dominated by the Americans and the British, that it was military through and through for decades, and it was built by the military, and so on and so forth. Forget all that. People don't actually get into contact with reality. They get into contact with climate fiction. Now, recently I published a video about the hit show The Last of Us, based on a popular video game. Now, at the beginning of the show, you're being told that climate change, even smaller climate change, caused a zombie apocalypse because changing temperatures gave rise to new forms of fungus or fungi, and hence the zombie apocalypse. So the whole plot, the whole show, is basically a lecture. It's like a communist lecture, right? In communism, you had to work all day, and after work, you had to attend these communist lectures. And nowadays, we work all day, and then we plonk down on the couch, and we watch this sort of climate fiction. Now, there's a specific scene in the first episode, the pilot of The Last of Us, when two main characters and that one guy's daughter, when they're escaping in a pickup truck. And specifically, it's a Ford F-150 pickup truck, and they also have rifles. Now, these are two of the most common symbols of the American South and conservatism and personal preparations, personal safety, right? You don't want to be at the mercy of government. You don't want to be at the mercy of anybody else. You take care of yourself and your family and your friends. So you see this continuous shot from within the car. They have a pretty good situation going. They could get out of danger with their Ford F-150 pickup truck, and they have guns and that sort of thing, and they have a plan. But, of course, that is not the message of the show. They get punished immediately. They lose the car, they lose the rifles, and then the daughter gets killed. And so the rest of the show is just plain punishment. So we ruined the climate, basically. Therefore, the zombie apocalypse. Therefore, we have to fight through this post-apocalyptic world. So this is kind of how this is designed, and you had previous zombie movies such as Dawn of the Dead, which were pretty Marxist in nature, attacking consumerism and kind of the middle class that actually has spare time and some spare money to enjoy. And it mixed in all kinds of statements about colonialism and theft and property and what is property and all these old questions that have been around for centuries without actually giving us any new answers. And then, of course, you had Frank Herbert's 1965 science fiction novel Dune, which recently, or fairly recently, was turned into a new movie, and this sequel is going to come out fairly soon. And it doesn't quite hit you over the head with climate propaganda, but it's still in there. Now, the villain from the evil Harkonnen, he is bathing in an oil-like fluid, and he is kind of overweight, and he's the cliche of the industrial capitalist who is exploiting other planets and exploiting ecosystems for industrial reasons, for imperial reasons. And the young hero, Prince of Atreides, he doesn't try to dominate his surroundings. Instead, he adapts to his surroundings. He adapts to this foreign culture of the Fremen, the desert people, and he emulates them, and he falls in love with the sort of the princes of the Fremen. And so he becomes sort of one of them, or he becomes more universal instead of trying to dominate the Fremen. And they are sort of the ragtag rebels. And they have been downtrodden, and they will rise up to actually become a serious force. Now, Dune was really, really successful, and it spawned many, many other pieces of art. And even long before that, you had Jules Verne's novel The Purchase of the North Pole. It dealt with climate apocalypse scenarios. Then you had 1933's Lawrence Manning's The Man Who Awoke. And this is about a person who then wakes up in the future and sees all the damage that has been done to the earth by fossil fuels, global warming, deforestations, and that sort of thing. Then you had British author J.G. Ballard. He had novels such as Wind from Nowhere, The Drowned World, The Burning World, and that sort of thing. So this was even decades before, climate change became a thing, like in the late 90s, when calculations were presented and these computer software models were then presented as kind of the final answer to what the future is going to be like. Then you had Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents, and this was also very, very popular. And so this went on and on and on. Sometimes you had something unusual, like Michael Crichton's State of Fear from 2004. Crichton was not really adopting the common climate change narrative. He was much more aware how complicated the topic is, and so his story presents eco fanatics trying to cause attacks and to warp the perception of people. Then you had Margaret Atwood's dystopian trilogy, Oryx and Craig, The Year of the Flood, and Mad Adam. So this is more of the same stuff that we've seen before. In the 2010s, the genre exploded again, and you had many more novels of that sort. The Road from 2006 by Cormac McCarthy was, for example, turned into a movie, and it's just pure punishment. You're supposed to watch these characters suffer. I think it starred Viggo Mortensen and some kid, and the whole movie is just miserable, right? It's just, they're just walking around, they're trying to survive, and this is, again, not really made for entertainment purposes. It is made to make you feel guilty and to make you feel involved, like this is going to be the world, and you have the chance to change that from happening. Then you had the movie Interstellar, which became a mega hit. It was made by Christopher Nolan. It's a brilliant movie, but it's glorifying science. It's glorifying the Royal Society, which was tied to imperialism through and through. And you see a world that is going to shreds, and the food supply is threatened by different problems. So there's dust everywhere and dirt everywhere, and everything's burning. Food supply is running out. So there's a two-pronged approach by the scientists. They want to solve a hyper-complicated calculation, and the other plan is to find a new Earth. So they have to look around and check out different planets that may be able to sustain human life. So we destroyed our Earth, therefore we have to find a new one. The same basic structure was used for Avatar, by James Cameron. Now the sequel is out. It's very successful. Again, humans destroy their own planet and they need a new planet, and it's Pandora, and it's inhabited by these superior beings, and they are in tune with nature and the world, and it's almost like high tech without technology. So they're better than us, and this is kind of more of James Cameron's Marxist hippie ideology. So it's always been very, very simplistic, but he was always hiding sort of his hardcore communist ideas. Then you had more works. Ian McEwan's Solar, The Stone Gods by Jeanette Winterson, Fallen Angels, Mother of Storms, Far North, Arctic Drift, The Carbon Diaries, Flight Behavior, Climate Quartet, and on and on and on. So this is a very, very powerful genre, and it has way more of an impact than these dry and drab IPCC reports. So these reports are just supposed to deliver the basic narrative, but in order to really influence people, you need these novels, you need these shows, and you need those kind of movies. Now, please like this video, subscribe to this channel to get informed about the next videos, and comment on it and share us on social media.